Welcome back, my horticultural friends, to Plant Revelations. I want to talk to you today about plants that flower late in the season, very late in the season. It's now 19th of October in the UK, and I will put down below the zone, the USDA zone it would be in America, because I know a lot of our viewers are American or Canadian, and that might give you an idea of what our climate is like in Nottingham, UK. We're going to look at several different plants which will look great this time of year and probably up until the first hard frosts. So October, November flowers you can depend on, so long as it's not too cold and you haven't had a dump of snow. The first one I want to talk about is this one, and it's great and it's really underused. It's called Salvia involucrata. It has these amazing electric pink flowers. It will start flowering end of July, August time, and as you can tell, it just keeps going. It's almost like a pink version of Amistad, but I think it's nicer. It's more visible, whereas Amistad can be lost in the garden, and it's much hardier than Amistad. It'll go down to about -10. It'll probably go down lower in temperature, but so long as the roots are quite dry. If you are in a colder area, I plant this against a south-facing wall. But as you can see here in the Nottingham sort of Derby border, where we do get occasional -10 to -12, it comes back fine. The next plant I want to talk about is Helianthus maximiliana. Now this comes from North America, and parts of North America get a lot colder than where we are, so they're really cold tolerant. They tend to do better on drier soils rather than really wet, heavy soils. They can rot off, but otherwise it's very easy plant. It's a perennial sunflower with these lovely sort of willowy like leaves. There are similar things like Colourful, but that one doesn't have as big a flowers as this one. There you can see it's just coming into flower now in October. Normally it would be starting to flower a bit earlier, and this will keep going, and you can see it will get flowers all the way down until sort of November, December. Now I imagine if you come from hotter climes, it will start a bit earlier, but it should still keep going well into late autumn. This little plant here is called Cyclamen hederifolium, and it thrives in dark, dry shade. So it's a really useful plant underneath shrubs, and here it actually grows underneath a bench underneath this tree. It's summer dormant, so it has no leaves in the summer, and then as you get into August, September time, it starts to flower, first of all naked without any leaves, and then this time of year the leaves start to come. And this will look great up until sort of November, December time. It comes in pink, white, pale pink, lots of different colours, and the leaves vary massively. Hederifolium, because its leaves look a bit like hederohelix, the ivy, but you can get some which are almost completely silver. So they're really variable. Really handy plant underneath shrubs when not much else will grow, especially like evergreen shrubs. But obviously you need to lift the canopy or chop back surrounding plants to expose the lovely beautiful flowers, otherwise they can be lost. As you can see, the petals are reflexed, and interestingly, the seed is distributed by ants. So they'll produce tiny little seeds which have like a little lump of sugary protein on the end, and the ants will carry away the seed, eat the little bit of protein that the plant puts on the end, and take it back to their nest, and basically redistribute the plant around your garden. The seed's very heavy, so this is quite handy, because otherwise they just tend to seed on top of themselves. The next one is probably one you all know about. This one is Verbena bonariensis. It comes from Brazil. It's reasonably hardy, actually. It's sort of newish introduction in the UK. We've probably had it for like the last 20, 25 years, but is quite common now. And this is the perfect environment for it. This sea of these verbenas. They'll grow in, they're like free draining ground. They'll self-seed readily in gravel. They always tend to self-seed where you don't want them, like in between your paving and stuff. And then you can pull them out or pop them in the borders where you want them. They start flowering quite early, probably June, July, and they'll go all the way up until the first hard frost. And if you come from somewhere where they won't survive, i.e. some of the places with more continental climate where you get snow on the ground for a long time, which will definitely kill these. You can actually grow these like an annual, sow them in spring, and they will flower in the same year, no problem. And in the UK, when we get really cold winters, like -15 and snow and stuff, we do lose these, but they often come back from the seed. So you can do them from cuttings as well. Now, if you do want to keep them, because they will act like an annual, what we tend to do is these will flower till Christmas, but obviously they don't need all of these plants in this burst garden. We tend to chop down maybe half of them around probably November, late November at the latest. And it's hard to do because they're still flowering and looking great, but it will encourage them to be nice and bushy, and that way they'll survive the winter. Whereas if you tend to leave them and not chop them back, they literally flower and seed themselves to death. This plant here is Aster, novae, Andenken, Alma, Potschke, which is a bit of a mouthful. And in fact, now it's become more of a mouthful because they've changed a lot of these New England asters to symphoricatum. It comes from North America, from the prairies in North America. This is a cultivar of the Aster nova, formerly Aster nova angliae, New England aster, and they only just start to come in flower in sort of October time. They only flower for about a month, so from sort of October through to November, as long as the conditions are right. This one is under a tree, so it could do with some staking. They much prefer to be in full sun, and then they will hold themselves up better. But this one gets covered in so much flowers, it often does need a stake. But it has these beautiful electric pink magenta type flowers, and the butterflies that are still flying around later in the season love them. So it's a great addition to the garden. But I wouldn't put too many of these in the border, just punctuate the odd one in, just because they don't flower for a very long time. If you don't like pink, there's always purple, and this one is Aster nova angliae violetta. So lots of different colours. There's white, purple. This one's nearly 6 foot tall. It's a big one. I think it flowers longer than normal Potschke. Great for the back of the border. These symphoricatum or New England asters, whatever you want to call them, they have a nasty habit of losing their lower leaves with drought and things like that. They don't get mildew like the New York asters, the Nova Belges, but they do lose their leaves. So it's always best to put them at the back of a border. Then you can underplant them with something, and you'll be laughing. This may prove impossible to film because it's so windy. But this is a Vernonia, and I kid you not, it's probably about, if I push it up, it's actually leaning over. It's got to be 7 foot, but it's a lovely plant from North America. I believe they call it ironweed there, but it's definitely not a weed. And there's a few different Vernonias. I need to look this up because I grew this from a pack of seed a long time ago, but it is a beauty. It flowers late. This is quite a purpley one, but we've got another one in the clients, which I think is novae, but I do need to check that, which is a lovely dark purpley blue. So this next plant is Nerine bowdenii. Normally you get Nerine bowdenii pink triumph. That's the most common one I'd say is available in the UK, and it's pale pink. It's quite a small flower, bit anemic looking, whereas this one is almost double the size. I'm not sure if it's a hybrid or not with amaryllis, but it's a brilliant plant.
and it's got these beautiful dark fuchsia pink flowers. Now, if you've got a big enough clump, as you can see, it should flower for about a month at this time of year, and it doesn't take up much room in the border, which is great. This is the perfect position for it. It's by the base of a wall. As you can see, the bulbs are planted, so the shoulders of the bulbs, just like an hippeastrum, the indoor amaryllis, are above the surface. They need to be baked. The other thing is, they need to be established. So if you buy the bulbs, which are cheaper, I expect to wait a year or two for them to flower. However, the best thing to do is to buy them in a pot, flowering, already rooted in the pot. And then you've got a bit of a head start and you'll have a nice clump flowering. When the clumps get nice and big, you can divide them. And the best thing is just to sort of tease them off the clump, off the edge of the clump, rather than dig up the whole clump and split them. They won't like it. They generally like to be left alone, like most of us. Another South African flower that flowers well into autumn. This one will flower all the way up to Christmas if temperatures allow. And in fact, you can see we've got some more buds coming. It's a member of the Iridaceae family, and it's called, well, it used to be called Schizostyle coccinea major, but now it's changed its name, like a lot of plants, as they keep reclassifying them under the APG system, to Hesperantha coccinea major. It's a lovely deep red. It's quite a big flower compared to some of the other Schizostylus or Hesperanthas. Some of the pale pink ones and white ones you pick up are rather small, and I'm not a fan of small flowers, especially ones that flower this time of year when you're not in the garden as much. I think it's important to be able to look out the window and see them. It's a really easy plant. This one prefers to be on the damper side, so it'll do much better in your wetter borders. It'll flower for longer. It'll spread really well. And this looks like a small clump, but it actually runs all the way through the border. But it's easy to dig out. It's not invasive. You're not going to have problems like you do with crocosmia. And like I say, this will flower well into December if conditions allow. So this plant is one of my favourite shrubs. I've just actually uncovered it. It was covered in this Potschke just down here. I don't know if we can see that. But it's a small shrub. It gets about 4 foot, 5 foot. Then it starts to get a bit leggy and you want to start chopping it back. It's Mahonia Soft Caress. So it's a form of Mahonia. Now, as the name suggests, brilliantly for a Mahonia, it doesn't have any spines. So this is a nice shrub that you can put up against a wall, happy in a north-facing spot, happy in dry shade. And you can work around it if you need to do maintenance to your fences or walls without fear of being spiked. But it's got this amazing sort of filigree evergreen foliage. And this time of year, of course, it has these sort of wonderful yellow flowers, which aren't even open yet. But I know in other spots where the people have planted them in full sun, they have been flowering for a little while. Excuse the dog. This is Millie, my parents' dog. And the only way of getting her to stop barking is by holding her like this. So the last plant I want to talk about is one called Kniphofia, linearifolia, and it flowers reliably in October-November time. The fascinating thing about Kniphophias is, if you're in a mild enough climate, i.e. London or Cornwall, or in a city somewhere, you can almost choose a Kniphofia to flower any time of year. We used to sell one which was a definitely bred from linearifolia, called Christmas cheer, and that actually flowers on Christmas Day, so long as it's mild. But if you get a cold, frosty December, the flowers tend to come up, but then get frosted before they open. But yeah, great plant. As you can see, it gets quite big. Sort of, we'll reach 4 to 5, well, 5 foot plus, sometimes 6 foot. It's a real statement plant in a border. I would put it, if you are starting to get frosts in November where you live, I would put it again in a more sheltered spot so that you are guaranteed flowers. But here, these are generally never a problem in October, November. We don't really get heavy frosts until end of November, and it will take a light one. So that brings us to the end of our list. Hopefully there's a couple in it which you can use in your garden or you like the look of. So there's no excuse, so long as you live in an area where you don't get snow on the ground for 6 months, why you can't have flowers in your garden all year round. So I'm going to keep making these videos. If you enjoy them, please like and subscribe, and we'll keep making them. Look after yourselves. Ciao, ciao for now.